Jesus said, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." There are items a man owns that usually reveal a much deeper issue. Therefore, if you see any of these 5 items in a man's possession, it could be God warning you, trying to protect you from getting hurt. Number 1, status symbols. 1 Timothy 6:10, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Mark, aren't you wearing an expensive, classy Casio calculator watch? Well, yes, I am. And this is just one of my guilty pleasures, so you're just going to have to forgive me. But in all seriousness, I kind of like wearing cheap watches that function really well because it's kind of a slap in the face to the whole idea of wearing a luxury watch, which I think is ridiculous. I think it's cool when a man can wear a cheap watch and still feel good about himself. Now, I admit that this point is a slippery slope. I don't think that if a man owns a luxury watch or drives a expensive BMW or Mercedes or one of those classic cars that symbolizes wealth, or has certain designer clothing, that he's for sure a bad person or loves money. There's a lot of explanations for those things of why he may own them. In short, it's not inherently bad to own these things. But if we're being honest, in the vast, very vast majority of cases, the reason a man has purchased these items is because he does have a love for money and he does want other people to see him as wealthy. Again, I'm sure there are some men out there who genuinely wanted to spend this exorbitant amount of money on this particular item because he feels like it's worth it. It's the right quality. He just wants to spend his money wisely, and he thinks that buying this thing will last forever and it's the right choice. Or another possibility is that someone gave it to him as a gift. Maybe he owns that Rolex because it was his grandfather's and it has a special meaning to him. But again, if we're all being honest, and in most cases, there is not a good reason for owning these things other than that you're worldly and you really care about what other people think about you. And so you want to get a reputation boost by using these symbols for your own status. Money is not bad, wealth is not bad, but the Bible is very clear that the love of money is evil. Number 2, a violent or worldly music collection. Philippians 4:8, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." Music is not just sound, it's a message set to a rhythm. A man who constantly fills his mind with messages full of violence, sexual immorality, and blasphemy against God is training himself to love what God hates. If his playlist reveals that he celebrates sin, that is showing he has an agreement with evil. It's like trying to plant thorn bushes in the soil expecting roses to blossom. The heart is the soil, and what we plant in it is what grows. So pay attention to the songs that he listens to, because they do have a direct influence on his life, and more so are a symptom of a deeper heart issue. Number 3, excessive amounts of alcohol in his possession and drug paraphernalia. Ephesians 5:18, "And do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled with the Spirit." Contrary to what a lot of people think, the Bible does not outright condemn alcohol, but it does outright condemn drunkenness. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a man owning a bottle of wine or some liquor even for a special occasion if it's being used in moderation and not to dull the senses and enter into drunkenness. But that's a lot different than a man whose identity revolves around drinking and partying and maybe even drug use. If you see him with a full liquor cabinet or tons of beer in his house or just other things that allow him to use drugs, on a casual level, like it's no big deal, you're staring at flashing red lights. Addiction destroys marriages and families and someone's life. Number 4, an out-of-control collection of childish toys or video games. 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. You don't be legalistic with, oh, does he own a child toy? It's not about one toy. It's about a over-the-top collection of toys where it's revealing something very immature in him. He's like a young boy who has a grown man's paycheck. It's showing he is responsible on the outside because he clearly has money, but he's immature on the inside because he's satisfying all these childhood desires and he hasn't grown out of that. But again, I think in moderation, it's totally fine if a man likes certain hobbies that a young boy would also like. For example, remote control cars or trading cards or certain toys and action figures that are nostalgic to him. If he has a few shelves of these things and likes to tinker around in his free time, that's not a problem. There's a big difference though between a man who's revolved his identity around these things. He goes to conventions every weekend. He's spending thousands of dollars. He has rooms dedicated to collecting Star Wars or Pokemon, and he plays 4 hours of video games every day, where this is a big part of his life. That's showing he has a childishness to him and he hasn't developed into a man. And number 5, sexually explicit pictures or images that idolize the female body. Matthew 5:28, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Does he have posters of women hanging up in his garage? Does he like on social media sexualized content meant to get attention to stimulate men? Does he own pornographic magazines? Think of it like mold in a house. Everybody sees mold on a wall and they're like, that's a problem. But it's actually way worse than the mold on the wall, because behind the wall, there's going to be a big problem and much worse than it even looks like on the surface. That's what it's like when a man is engaging in this type of sexualized content. While God can certainly heal a man who has struggled with this, don't ignore a man who's currently struggling with this. It's a red flag. A lustful man is not able to truly love a woman while he's stuck in that sin. Here's that video I mentioned from my other channel for men, where I talk about the other side of this equation from the man's perspective. These are items a woman owns that are red flags. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. I'll see you at the next video. God bless.